The phone call that shattered my marriage came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I wasn't even supposed to hear it. I was hunched over my drafting table in the converted mill that served as my architectural studio, nursing my third cup of coffee and wrestling with the structural plans for the Morrison Tower project. The rain hammered against the tall windows, creating a steady percussion that usually helped me focus. But tonight, every line I drew looked wrong. Every calculation felt off. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. That's when Sophia's voice drifted down from the loft above, where she'd retreated an hour earlier with her laptop and what she called urgent marketing business. Her laugh was different, throaty, intimate, nothing like the polite chuckles she reserved for me these days. "God, you should see him right now," she whispered, but her voice carried in the old mill's acoustics. Hunched over his little drawings like some pathetic monk. My friends think it's hilarious that I married an architect. They keep asking when I'm going to upgrade to someone who makes real money. I set down my pencil carefully, my hand surprisingly steady. Apparently, I was the court jester at my own marriage. No, he can't hear me. He's in his own little world down there. Another laugh, softer this time. Tomorrow's the Harrison Charity Gala, remember? Just don't come near me there, okay? Try not to look so desperate and needy. I have a reputation to maintain. I stared at the blueprint in front of me. Clean lines, perfect proportions, everything in its proper place. Unlike my life, apparently. The conversation continued for another 20 minutes, but I'd heard enough. I gathered my drawings with mechanical precision, turned off the lights, and climbed the narrow stairs to our bedroom. Sophia was already under the covers, phone nowhere in sight, looking like an angel in the dim light from the hallway. "Working late again?" she asked without opening her eyes. "Someone has to pay for your reputation," I said quietly. She didn't respond, and within minutes her breathing had settled into the rhythm of sleep. Or pretend sleep. I lay awake until dawn, watching the rain streak down the windows and thinking about structural integrity. How buildings could look solid for years before you discovered the foundation was rotten. The next morning brought Mrs. Griggs. Eleanor Griggs was our 72-year-old neighbor, a retired librarian with sharp eyes and an unfortunate tendency to be wherever interesting things were happening. She appeared at my studio door at precisely 8 a.m., clutching a plate of what she optimistically called blueberry muffins. "Daniel, dear, I hope you don't mind me saying, but I saw your wife yesterday evening, around 6 o'clock. She set the plate down and fixed me with a meaningful stare. She was getting into a red sports car. Flashy thing, very loud. The man driving was quite handsome, I'll give him that. I accepted a muffin I didn't want. I'm sure it was work-related." "Oh, I'm sure it was," Mrs. Griggs nodded sagely. "The kind of work that requires a lot of close collaboration." They seemed very focused on their project. After she left, I sat in my empty studio and tried to concentrate on the Morrison plans, but the numbers kept blurring, and all I could think about was Sophia's laugh. The way she'd sounded talking to whoever was on the other end of that phone. My assistant Alex arrived at 9, 20 minutes late, and carrying 2 cups of coffee like peace offerings. Alex Chen was 26, brilliant with both computers and people, and had been working for me for 3 years. He took one look at my face and set both cups down carefully. "Rough night?" he asked. "You could say that." I accepted the coffee gratefully. "Alex, you're good with technology, right?" "Define good." He grinned. "I mean, I can't hack into the Pentagon, but I can usually figure out why someone's printer isn't working." "What about phones? Like, if someone deleted text messages, could you recover them?" Alex's grin faded. "Daniel, are you okay? You look like someone ran over your dog." I almost laughed. "Worse, someone ran over my marriage, and I'm just now seeing the tire tracks." "Ah." Alex settled into his chair and pulled out his laptop. "Well, technically, most people don't really delete things properly. They just move them to a different folder. And if you have access to cloud backups or shared accounts or even just location services..." He trailed off, studying my expression. "This is about Sophia, isn't it?" I nodded. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to finish the Morrison project, because you need the money and I need the job. Then, if you really want to know what's going on, we'll figure out a completely legal way to find out. Deal?" "Deal." But I already knew what we'd find. The question wasn't whether Sophia was cheating. It was how long she'd been doing it, and how many people knew about it before I did. The Harrison Charity Gala was being held at the Meridian Hotel, downtown, in the renovated historic district. I'd actually worked on the restoration plans 5 years earlier, back when Sophia still pretended to be interested in my work. The irony wasn't lost on me as I adjusted my tie in the bathroom mirror, preparing to watch my wife publicly humiliate me in a building I'd helped save. Sophia emerged from her closet wearing a black dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. She looked stunning, which somehow made everything worse. "Remember what I said," she murmured, not looking at me as she fastened her earrings. "Just try to blend in tonight. Don't embarrass me." "Wouldn't dream of it," I replied. She finally looked at me then, her expression unreadable. "Good. Maya and Jared will be there, and some important clients. I need tonight to go perfectly." Maya Thornton was Sophia's best friend since college, a socialite whose main occupation seemed to be spending her husband's money and spreading gossip. Jared Kim worked with Sophia at the marketing firm, and had always treated me like something unpleasant he'd found on his shoe. The gala was exactly what I'd expected. Overpriced wine, mediocre food, and a lot of people pretending to care about literacy while really just networking. I found a spot near the bar and watched Sophia work the room like a professional politician, all smiles and air kisses and meaningful touches on people's arms. Maya appeared beside me after about an hour, her martini already half empty. "Daniel, you look so serious. This is supposed to be fun, you know." "I'm having a blast," I said. "Nothing I enjoy more than watching my wife pretend I don't exist." Maya's laugh was sharp. "Oh, honey, you're being dramatic. Sophia's just focused on work. You know how ambitious she is." "Right, work." I took a sip of my whiskey. "Speaking of which, who's the guy with the red sports car?" Maya's smile flickered for just a second. "I'm sure I don't know what you mean." "Of course not. I was watching Sophia charm a group of potential clients when I saw him. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive suit that fit too well to be off the rack. He had the kind of confident smile that suggested he'd never been told no about anything important. When Sophia saw him, her entire demeanor changed. Her laugh became more musical, her gestures more animated. Liam Becker. I recognized him from the Financial District social pages, one of those investment types who made obscene amounts of money moving other people's money around. He drove a red Porsche and had recently divorced his wife of 10 years. I watched them dance, watched her lean into him like they'd done this 1,000 times before. When they disappeared toward the hotel elevators, I knew exactly what kind of work meeting this was. I finished my drink and walked home through the rain, my phone buzzing with a text from Sophia. "Staying late to network. Don't wait up." Sure. Networking. The next morning, I found myself in the strange position of becoming a detective in my own life. Alex arrived early, armed with coffee and a laptop bag that looked suspiciously heavy. "Okay," he said, settling into the conference room I'd cleared for our investigation. "Before we start, I need to know exactly what you want to accomplish here, because there's a big difference between I want to know the truth and I want to destroy my wife's life." I considered this carefully. Right now, I just want to know the truth. What I do with it, we'll see. "Fair enough." Alex opened his laptop and pulled out a tablet. "First things first. Do you and Sophia share any accounts? Cloud storage, family phone plans, anything like that?" "We have a shared iCloud account for photos and calendar stuff, and we're on the same phone plan." "Perfect. That makes things much simpler, and perfectly within the rules." Alex's fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. "You know, most people don't realize that when you delete something from your phone, it doesn't really vanish. It's just marked as free space waiting to be reused. And if you're backing up to the cloud..." Within an hour, Alex had recovered 3 months' worth of deleted text messages, call logs, and location data. The picture they painted was devastating and crystal clear. Sophia had been seeing Liam Becker for at least 4 months. The texts were explicit, cruel, and left no doubt about what they thought of me. But worse than the sensitive content were the casual cruelties. The way they joked about my profession, my appearance, my complete obliviousness to what was happening. "Jesus," Alex muttered, scrolling through a particularly vicious exchange. "She actually called you architecturally unsound as a joke. That's really mean." The location data told an even clearer story. Hotel visits, long lunches, Evenings at Liam's downtown penthouse while I worked late at the studio. They'd been careful, but not careful enough. "There's more," Alex said quietly. "Look at this." He showed me a series of messages between Sophia and Maya, discussing strategies for what Sophia called managing Daniel's inevitable breakdown. They'd planned for this moment, anticipated my discovery, and had already crafted a narrative that would paint me as the unstable, controlling husband. "They're planning to flip this," I said, reading over Alex's shoulder. "Make me the bad guy." "Looks like it. Maya's already been spreading rumors about your obsessive behavior and concerning mood swings." Alex closed the laptop. "Daniel, these people aren't just cheating on you. They're actively trying to destroy your reputation." I stared out the window at the gray morning sky. "Then I guess we'd better get to work." The first step was documentation. Alex helped me create secure copies of everything: texts, photos, location data, call logs. We organized it chronologically, cross-referenced it with my own calendar and credit card statements, built an unshakable timeline of lies and betrayal. The second step was reconnaissance. I'd always been good at observation. It's part of being an architect. You learn to see how spaces work, how people move through them, what details matter. Now I turned those skills toward my own life, and what I saw was humiliating. Liam's red Porsche parked outside my house on Tuesday afternoons when I was usually at the Morrison construction site. Sophia's girls' nights that coincided perfectly with Liam's social media posts from expensive restaurants. The way Maya and Jared exchanged glances when I joined their conversations, like they were all in on a joke I didn't understand. Because they were. The worst part, I told Alex over lunch at a diner near the studio, is that I was so focused on being the good husband, the provider, the guy who never made a scene, that I made it easy for them. "You trusted your wife," Alex said. "That's not a character flaw, isn't it, in this case?" Alex considered this while methodically destroying a grilled cheese sandwich. "Okay, maybe it is. But you know what's not a character flaw? Being really, really good at planning." He was right. I was good at planning. I could see 3 moves ahead, anticipate problems, design solutions that look simple but were actually incredibly complex. And right now, I was designing the most important project of my life. The third step was recruitment. Mrs. Griggs was easier to convince than I'd expected. I found her in her garden that afternoon, waging war against an invasion of aphids with the kind of focused intensity most people reserved for actual enemies. "Eleanor, I need a favor." She looked up from her spray bottle. "This is about the red sports car, isn't it?" "Among other things, yes." "Well, it's about time." She set down her weapon and fixed me with a stern look. "That woman has been making a fool of you for months, Daniel. I was starting to think you were blind." "Just stupid," I said, "but I'm feeling much smarter lately." Mrs. Griggs smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. "What do you need me to do?" "Just keep doing what you do best. Watch. Listen. And when the time comes, remember what you've seen." "Oh, I never forget anything important, dear. It's a gift." Detective Rena Carter was harder to find, but easier to convince. Alex had tracked her down through his network of tech-savvy friends. A former police detective who'd gone private after getting tired of department politics. She specialized in what she called gray area investigations, the kind of work that lived in the spaces between legal and illegal. I met her at a coffee shop in the Arts District, a place with exposed brick walls and the kind of aggressively hip atmosphere that usually made me uncomfortable. Carter was exactly what I'd expected from Alex's description. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, the kind of practical clothes that suggested she was more interested in function than fashion. "Your assistant says you need help with a cheating spouse," she said without preamble. "I don't do divorce work anymore. Too messy, too emotional." "This isn't about divorce," I said. "This is about justice." Carter studied me over her coffee cup. "Explain." I told her about the texts, the planning, the systematic campaign to destroy my reputation before I even knew there was a war. I showed her some of the evidence Alex had recovered, watched her professional mask slip just slightly. "They're good," she admitted. "Thorough. Your wife's not just cheating, she's building a case against you. Can you help me build a better one?" Carter was quiet for a long moment, watching the rain streak down the coffee shop's windows. "I can, but it won't be cheap, and it won't be clean. You sure you want to go down this road?" "I'm sure." "Okay then." She pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. "This is my rate. And Daniel, Once we start this, there's no going back. You understand that, right? I looked at the number she'd written and didn't flinch. I understand. Good. Then let's ruin some lives. The beautiful thing about being married to someone for 8 years is that you know their patterns, their weaknesses, their tells. Sophia thought she was so clever, but she'd gotten sloppy. Success had made her arrogant, and arrogance makes people predictable. Every Thursday, she had lunch with Maya at Bistro Laurent, the trendy French place downtown, where they could see and be seen. They always sat at the same table by the window, always ordered the same overpriced salads, always spent 2 hours dissecting other people's lives with surgical precision. This Thursday, I made sure they had something interesting to dissect. Carter had done her homework. She'd found 3 of Sophia's colleagues who were already questioning her closeness with Liam. 2 clients who had noticed their overly familiar behavior at company events, and 1 very upset ex-wife who was still keeping an eye on her. Former husband's activities. The key, Carter explained over breakfast at the same diner where Alex and I had planned my digital archaeology, is to let them tell the story themselves. Don't force it, just provide opportunities for the truth to come out. The first opportunity came in the form of Jennifer Walsh, Liam's ex-wife. Carter had made contact through a mutual friend, and it turned out Jennifer had been suspicious about Liam's work dinners long before their divorce was finalized. She was more than happy to accidentally run into Sophia at the right moment. I watched from across the street as Jennifer walked up to Sophia's table at Bistro Laurent, arriving at just the right moment. The conversation was brief but intense. I could see Sophia's face go white, see Maya lean forward with the predatory interest of someone who smelled fresh gossip. Jennifer had brought props, printed photos of Liam and Sophia at various hotels and restaurants, time-stamped and dated. She left them on the table when she walked away. Maya's reaction was everything I'd hoped for. Within minutes, she was photographing the evidence with her phone, her fingers flying as she texted what I assumed was every contact in her considerable social network. By the time Sophia managed to snatch the photos away, the damage was done. The second opportunity came that evening, at the weekly networking event Sophia's firm hosted for potential clients. I'd never attended before. Sophia always said it would be boring for me. But tonight, I made an exception. The event was held at Meridian Hotel's rooftop bar, the same building where I'd watched my wife disappear with her lover just days earlier. The irony was almost too perfect. I arrived early and positioned myself near the bar, close enough to overhear conversations, but far enough away to seem uninvolved. Alex had coached me on looking casual, on blending into the background while staying alert to opportunities. Sophia arrived with Jared, both of them looking slightly frazzled. Maya's gossip network had been busy, and word was spreading through their social circle like wildfire. I could see it in the way conversations stopped when Sophia approached, in the meaningful glances and whispered asides. Daniel? Sophia spotted me across the room, her expression a mix of surprise and annoyance. What are you doing here? Networking, I said pleasantly. Isn't that what these things are for? Before she could respond, Liam appeared at her elbow. Up close, he was even more obnoxious than I'd imagined. All perfect teeth and expensive cologne, with the kind of aggressive handshake that was meant to establish dominance. You must be the husband, he said, like I was some exotic species he'd heard about but never seen. Liam Becker. I work with Sophia sometimes. I know exactly who you are, I replied, maintaining eye contact until he looked away first. The evening got better from there. Carter had prepared me for this moment, coached me on how to plant seeds of doubt without seeming accusatory. I circulated through the crowd, making casual conversation, dropping carefully crafted comments about loyalty and trust and the importance of knowing who your real friends were. Marriage is like architecture, I told one group of Sophia's colleagues. It looks solid from the outside, but if the foundation is rotten, the whole structure will eventually collapse. The trick is recognizing the warning signs before it's too late. By 9 o'clock, the atmosphere had shifted noticeably. Sophia's usual confidence was cracking, and I could see her shooting increasingly desperate looks at Maya and Jared. Liam had retreated to a corner table, nursing his drink and checking his phone obsessively. The third opportunity came gift-wrapped in the form of office politics. Carter had done some digging into Sophia's workplace dynamics and discovered something interesting. Her boss, Patricia Manning, was already concerned about Sophia's recent performance, and her increasingly obvious relationship with a client. All it took was an anonymous email with some carefully selected evidence to push Patricia's concerns into action. I wasn't there to see Sophia get called into Patricia's office the next morning, but Alex had strategically positioned himself at a coffee shop across the street with a clear view of the building's entrance. His play-by-play texts were better than any movie. She went in at 9:15, looking confident. Still in there. Through the windows, looks like Patricia is doing most of the talking. Holy shit, Daniel. Sophia just stormed out of the building. She looks furious. Liam's here now, going up to Patricia's office. This is getting interesting. And he's back down. Took the stairs instead of the elevator, practically running. By noon, both Sophia and Liam had been suspended, pending an internal investigation into their conduct. The marketing firm couldn't afford to lose clients over a scandal, and Patricia Manning had a reputation for cutting problems loose before they could spread. Sophia came home that afternoon looking like she'd been hit by a truck. Her perfect composure had finally cracked, and for the first time in months, she looked vulnerable. "We need to talk," she said. I looked up from my drafting table, where I'd been pretending to work on the Morrison project, while actually planning my next move. "Do we?" "Daniel, please. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but what?" I set down my pencil and gave her my full attention. "But I should forgive and forget? But it didn't mean anything? But you were going to tell me eventually?" She flinched at each question. "It's complicated." "No, Sophia, it's really not. You've been screwing Liam Becker for 4 months. You and your friends have been planning how to destroy my reputation when I found out. You've been using our shared resources to fund your affair, while treating me like an embarrassing secret. What exactly is complicated about that? How did you—" She stopped herself, but it was too late. "How did I find out? I'm not as stupid as you thought I was. That's how." Sophia eased into the chair across from my desk, looking more tired and worn than I'd ever seen her. "What is it you want, Daniel? Money? The house? Just tell me. We can sort this out quietly." For a moment, I almost felt a hint of pity for her. Almost. "What I want," I said carefully, "is for you to understand that actions have consequences. What I want is for you and your friends to experience the same humiliation you put me through. What I want is justice. That sounds like revenge. Sometimes they're the same thing." Sophia stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her calculating, trying to figure out how much I knew and how much damage I could do. Finally, she stood up. "Fine," she said. "If that's how you want to play this, then game on. But you have no idea what you're up against, Daniel. No idea at all." After she left, I called Carter. "Phase 1 is complete," I told her. "They're scared and desperate. What's next?" "Next," Carter said, and I could hear the smile in her voice, "we give them something to really worry about." The Morrison Tower project had been my biggest commission to date, a 30-story mixed-use building that would reshape the downtown skyline. The construction site was a maze of steel and concrete, scaffolding and cranes, all of it rising from a foundation I'd spent months perfecting. It was also the perfect place for a private conversation. Liam had been trying to reach Sophia all week, but she'd gone into hiding after losing her job. His increasingly frantic voicemails and texts painted a picture of a man who was used to getting what he wanted and didn't handle frustration well. Carter had been monitoring his movements, and his patterns were as predictable as Sophia's had been. Every morning at 7, he stopped at the Starbucks on 5th Street. Every evening at 6, he hit the gym in his building. And every Wednesday night, he met his divorce attorney at Murphy's Pub to discuss his ongoing settlement negotiations. This Wednesday, I made sure he had something new to discuss. I was waiting in the parking garage under his building when he returned from the gym, positioned between his precious red Porsche and the elevator. He didn't see me until he was close enough that running would have been awkward. "Daniel!" He tried to sound casual, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. "Fancy meeting you here." "Not really," I said. "I wanted to talk, and this seemed like a good place for privacy." Liam glanced around the empty garage, probably calculating his chances of making it to the elevator before I could stop him. "Look, if this is about Sophia, it's about respect," I interrupted. "See, I could understand if you'd just wanted to sleep with my wife. Men like you see something you want, you take it. That's predictable. But the jokes, the planning, the systematic humiliation, that was personal." "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and played one of the recovered voicemails, Sophia's voice echoing in the concrete space. He's working late. Again, probably drawing his little pictures and feeling important. God, Liam, sometimes I can't believe I married such a pathetic loser. Liam's face went pale. How did you... I'm an architect, I said. I'm good at uncovering structural problems. And you, Liam, are a very big structural problem. He straightened up, trying to reclaim some of his usual arrogance. Okay, fine. So you know. What are you going to do about it? Beat me up? You don't seem like the type. You're right. I'm not. I smiled, and something in my expression made him take a step back. I'm much worse than that. I'm the type who plans. I'd spent hours studying the building's blueprints, learning its rhythms and patterns. I knew that the security cameras in this section of the garage had been broken for weeks, that the night security guard made his rounds every 2 hours, that the elevator required a key card after 10 p.m. What Liam didn't know was that I'd already disabled his car. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a few strategic disconnections that would leave his engine over and his doors locked. He'd discover it after I was long gone, along with the photos Carter had taken of him entering and leaving various hotels with Sophia. Photos that would be waiting on his windshield, along with copies of their most damaging text messages. But first, I wanted him to understand exactly what he'd gotten himself into. You know what the difference is between you and me, Liam? I asked, circling him slowly in the empty garage. You think in terms of transactions. You see something you want, you figure out the price, you pay it. But I think in terms of systems. I see how things connect, how one small change can bring down an entire structure. You're crazy, he said, but his voice was shaking. Maybe, but I'm also very, very good at my job. And right now my job is making sure you understand that actions have consequences. I left him standing there in the garage, probably wondering if his car would start, if his phone would work, if the elevator would come when he called it. I had planted enough doubt to keep him awake for weeks, wondering what other systems in his carefully ordered life might suddenly fail. The next morning, Alex found me at the construction site, standing on the 20th floor and looking out over the city. The view was spectacular. You could see the river, the historic district, even the roof of my old house where Sophia was probably planning her next move. How did it go? Alex asked, joining me at the edge of the platform. Better than expected. Liam's not as tough as he pretends to be. And Sophia? I smiled, watching the traffic crawl through the streets below. Sophia's about to have a very bad day. Carter had been busy while I was dealing with Liam. She'd arranged for several of Sophia's former colleagues to receive anonymous packages containing evidence of the affair, along with documentation of how Sophia had been using company resources for personal meetings. She'd also made sure that Patricia Manning received a complete timeline of Sophia's deception, including the planning sessions with Maya about managing my inevitable breakdown. But the real masterstroke was the social media campaign. Maya's addiction to posting every detail of her life online had always annoyed me, but now it was proving useful. Carter had created fake accounts and spent weeks building believable online personas, complete with friend networks and posting histories. When the evidence of Sophia's affair started spreading, it looked like organic gossip rather than a coordinated attack. Within hours, Sophia's social circle was buzzing with rumors, speculation, and screenshots. Maya, ironically, found herself at the center of a scandal she couldn't control, her reputation as the keeper of secrets suddenly working against her. By noon, Sophia's phone was buzzing constantly, with calls she couldn't answer and texts she didn't want to read. I watched her through the studio windows as she paced around our house, her perfect composure finally cracking completely. When she finally called me, her voice was raw with desperation. Daniel, please, you have to make this stop. Make what stop? I asked innocently. You know what? The photos, the messages, the rumors. People are calling me a homewrecker, a gold digger. Maya won't even answer my calls. That's terrible, I said, but I don't see how it's my problem. It's your problem because I'm still your wife, she screamed, because we're supposed to be a team. Were we a team when you were planning how to destroy my reputation? Were we a team when you were joking about my career with your lover? Were we a team when you were using our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms? Silence on the other end of the line. I didn't think so, I continued. But here's the thing, Sophia. This is just the beginning. You wanted to play games with my life, So now we're playing games with yours, and I'm much better at this than you are." "What do you want?" she whispered. "I want you to understand what it feels like to be humiliated by people you trusted. I want you to experience the same isolation, the same betrayal, the same systematic destruction of everything you thought was solid in your life." And then what? I looked out at the city skyline, at the buildings I'd helped design and the spaces where people lived their lives, made their choices, faced their consequences. Then we'll see how good you are at rebuilding. The Riverside Community Center charity auction was supposed to be Sophia's comeback event. After 2 weeks of social exile, she'd finally convinced Maya to make a public appearance with her, hoping to signal that their friendship, and by extension, her social standing, was intact. It was exactly the kind of desperate move I'd been expecting. Carter and I had spent hours planning this moment, studying the venue, timing our approach, preparing for every possible contingency. The community center was one of my early projects, a renovation I'd done pro bono 5 years ago, which meant I knew every entrance, every sightline, every acoustic quirk in the building. "You sure about this?" Carter asked as we reviewed our final preparations. "Once we pull this trigger, there's no going back, for any of you." I looked at the evidence we'd compiled. Months of lies, betrayal, and calculated cruelty, all documented with the precision of an architectural survey, I'm sure. The auction was already in full swing when I arrived, fashionably late and alone. Sophia was holding court near the silent auction tables, surrounded by a carefully curated group of supporters. Maya stood at her right hand, like a loyal lieutenant, both of them projecting an image of confidence and solidarity. They had no idea what was coming. I'd spent the week making strategic donations to the charity, large enough to guarantee me a seat at the VIP table, close enough to the stage to be seen by everyone in the room. When the organizers introduced me as one of their major supporters, I stood and waved, making sure Sophia saw me. Her face went white. The first phase of the plan activated during the dinner service. Alex had positioned himself at a table near the kitchen, close enough to overhear conversations, but far enough away to seem uninvolved. As the servers moved through the crowd, he made sure that certain key people received special additions to their meal service, printed cards containing QR codes that linked to a private website Carter had created. The website was a masterpiece of digital storytelling, a chronological presentation of Sophia's affair, complete with text messages, photos, location data, and audio recordings. Everything was time-stamped, cross-referenced, and presented with a kind of clinical precision that made denial impossible. I watched as phones began lighting up around the room, as people scanned the QR codes and discovered the truth about Sophia's double life. The reaction was immediate and devastating. Whispered conversations, shocked expressions, meaningful glances in Sophia's direction. Maya noticed first. I saw her check her phone, saw her face go pale, saw her lean over to whisper urgently in Sophia's ear. Within minutes, both women were frantically checking their devices, trying to understand what was happening. But the real surprise came during the live auction. I'd arranged for a special item to be added to the evening's offerings, a architectural consultation package donated anonymously, with all proceeds going to support literacy programs. The auctioneer described it as a comprehensive design review, perfect for anyone looking to build something new or renovate something old. When the bidding started, I made sure to participate actively, driving the price up while making eye contact with Sophia across the room. She looked terrified, probably wondering what kind of consultation I was really offering. The winning bid came from an unexpected source, Jennifer Walsh, Liam's ex-wife, who'd been sitting quietly at a table near the back of the room. When she stood to acknowledge her purchase, she looked directly at Sophia and smiled. "I'm looking forward to discussing some renovation projects," Jennifer announced to the room. "Specifically, I want to tear down some old structures that have outlived their usefulness." The room erupted in nervous laughter, but everyone understood the subtext. Jennifer had just publicly declared war on her ex-husband and his mistress, and she'd done it at a charity event where the social elite could witness every moment. The second phase activated during the coffee service. Mrs. Griggs had been busy over the past week, using her network of retired librarians, church volunteers, and neighborhood watch coordinators to spread carefully curated information about Sophia's activities. These women were the backbone of the community's social infrastructure, the ones who organized events, managed volunteer schedules, and decided who was welcome in polite society. When Mrs. Griggs stood up during the open microphone portion of the evening, ostensibly to thank the organizers for their hard work, She had the room's complete attention. "I've been thinking a lot lately about trust," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the room's excellent acoustics. "About how we decide who to let into our communities, who to trust with our secrets, who deserves our support." She paused, looking directly at Sophia. "And I've realized that sometimes the people who seem the most trustworthy are actually the ones we should watch most carefully, because they're very good at hiding their true nature." The room was completely silent now, everyone understanding that they were witnessing something significant. "Take marriage, for example," Mrs. Griggs continued. "We assume that married people are committed to their vows, that they respect the institution, that they wouldn't betray the trust of their partners or their community. But sometimes we're wrong about people. Sometimes they're not who they pretend to be." She sat down to scattered applause, leaving Sophia looking like she'd been publicly executed. The third phase was the most devastating of all. Carter had spent weeks building relationships with key people in Sophia's professional network, former colleagues, potential employers, industry contacts who might have offered her opportunities after her suspension. She'd made sure that everyone who mattered in Sophia's career had access to the evidence of her unprofessional conduct, her misuse of company resources, and her systematic deception. The message was clear. Sophia Turner was unemployable. But the real masterstroke came in the form of a surprise guest. Patricia Manning, Sophia's former boss, had been invited to the auction as a representative of the business community's commitment to literacy programs. She had agreed to make a brief presentation about corporate social responsibility, and she'd chosen her topic carefully. "Trust is the foundation of all business relationships," Patricia told the assembled crowd. "When that trust is broken, when people prove that they're willing to lie, cheat, and manipulate for personal gain, it damages everyone involved." She clicked to her next slide, which showed a generic organizational chart. "Recently, my company had to deal with a situation where an employee was using company resources for personal activities, conducting inappropriate relationships with clients, and actively working to undermine colleagues. It was a difficult situation, but ultimately, we had to prioritize our integrity over personal relationships." Another click, another slide. The lesson here is that actions have consequences. When you choose to betray trust, when you choose to put your personal desires above your professional responsibilities, when you choose to treat other people as disposable, you're making a choice about who you want to be, and the community will respond accordingly. She looked directly at Sophia for the final line. "Character matters. Integrity matters. And the truth always comes out." The presentation ended to enthusiastic applause, and I watched Sophia crumble in real time. Her carefully constructed comeback had become a public execution, witnessed by everyone who mattered in her social and professional world. Maya abandoned her first, slipping out during Patricia's presentation without saying goodbye. Within minutes, other members of Sophia's support network began making their excuses and leaving early. By the time the evening officially ended, Sophia was sitting alone at her table, surrounded by empty chairs and the ruins of her reputation. I approached her as the cleanup crew began clearing tables around us. "Hello, Sophia." She looked up at me with eyes that were red from crying, her perfect makeup smeared and ruined. "You destroyed me." "No," I said, sitting down across from her. "You destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone could see the damage. What happens now?" I considered the question seriously. Around us, the community center was returning to its normal state. Chairs stacked, tables folded, decorations packed away. Soon, there would be no trace of this evening's events, except in the memories of the people who witnessed them. "Now you learn to live with the consequences of your choices," I said finally, just like I had to learn to live with mine. "I loved you," she whispered. "At the beginning, I really did love you." "I know," I said. "But love isn't enough when it's not backed up by respect, by loyalty, by basic human decency. You taught me that." Sophia stood up slowly, gathering her purse and the remnants of her dignity. "I'll never forgive you for this. I don't expect you to. But I don't need your forgiveness anymore, Sophia. I don't need anything from you at all." She walked away without another word, her heels clicking against the community center's polished floors. I watched her go, feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Carter appeared beside me as Sophia's figure disappeared through the exit. "How do you feel?" she asked. I looked around the empty room, thinking about foundations and structures, about building things that last and tearing down things that don't. Like an architect, I said. I designed something, I built it carefully, and it worked exactly as planned. And now? Now I start designing something new. Alex joined us as we prepared to leave, his laptop bag slung over his shoulder and a satisfied smile on his face. The website's getting a lot of traffic, he reported, and the social media response is intense. I think it's safe to say that Sophia's reputation in this city is officially finished. Good, I said. She earned it. We walked out of the community center together, into the cool night air and the promise of tomorrow. Behind us, the building stood solid and well-designed, ready to serve the community for decades to come. Just like revenge, when it's properly planned and expertly executed. The morning after the auction, I woke up in my studio apartment, a temporary space I'd rented while Sophia and I worked out the details of our divorce. The place was small, but well-designed, with good light and clean lines. Everything I needed, and nothing I didn't. My phone had been buzzing all night with messages, some from friends offering support, others from colleagues who'd heard about the previous evening's events. The story was spreading through the city's social networks like wildfire, growing and evolving with each retelling. But the message that mattered most came from an unexpected source, Jennifer Walsh. Mr. Turner, I wanted to thank you for last night. I've been trying to expose Liam's behavior for months, but no one would listen. Your presentation gave me the credibility I needed. I think we should talk. I smiled, thinking about the possibilities. Jennifer had resources, connections, and a very legitimate grievance against the man who destroyed her marriage. If she wanted to continue the campaign against Liam, I was happy to provide architectural support. The second message was from Mrs. Griggs. Daniel, dear, you should know that Sophia came by the house this morning to collect some things. She looked terrible. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The third was from Alex. Boss, you need to see the news. Channel 7 is running a story about ethics in the marketing industry. Guess whose situation they're using as a case study? I turned on the television to find a perfectly groomed reporter discussing the importance of professional boundaries, illustrated with carefully anonymized details that anyone in the city would recognize as Sophia's story. The segment included interviews with business leaders, ethics experts, and community representatives, all of whom emphasized the importance of accountability and consequences. Patricia Manning appeared as a talking head, discussing the challenges facing modern businesses when employees engage in unprofessional conduct. She was articulate, authoritative, and devastating in her assessment of people who prioritize personal gratification over professional integrity. The story concluded with a reminder that actions have consequences, that communities have standards, and that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild.